I used to believe that family meant something unbreakable. That blood was thicker than water. That's what my parents always said when they called us the Davis Four. Me, my sister Valerie, and my parents. A circle that couldn't be broken. My name is Fern Davis. I'm from Plano, Texas, and I just turned 30 years old. Or I should say, I spent my 30th birthday alone in my apartment with a store-bought cake and 30 unlit candles. It wasn't supposed to be that way. I'd spent weeks planning my birthday dinner. Nothing fancy, reservations at Mesero, my favorite Mexican restaurant downtown. I'd invited my parents, my sister Valerie, and of course, my fiancé Adam. We were getting married in 3 months, and this was supposed to be my last birthday as a single woman. When the clock hit 7:30 p.m. and nobody had shown up, I started calling. Mom's phone went straight to voicemail. Dad's too. Valerie didn't answer. I wasn't worried yet. Maybe there was traffic or they were running late. By 8:15, I was getting concerned. I called Adam, but it went to voicemail too. Hey babe, I'm at Mesero. Everyone's running late, I guess. Call me when you get this. The waitress kept giving me those looks. You know the ones. Pity mixed with impatience. I ordered a margarita and kept checking my phone. At 8:45, I tried Adam again. This time, he answered. Hey, I'm so sorry. I'm stuck in Chicago. The meetings ran long and I couldn't get a flight back. His voice sounded strange, rushed. Oh, I said, feeling my shoulders slump. The whole weekend. Yeah, looks like it. I'm really sorry about your birthday. I didn't know then that there was no business trip. No meetings in Chicago, no delayed flight. There was a wedding, my wedding, except I wasn't the bride. I found out the next day when I was scrolling through Instagram, trying to distract myself from my disappointment. A mutual friend had posted an image and forgotten to hide it from me. There they were, my sister Valerie in a white dress, my fiancé Adam in a tux. My parents were standing beside them, beaming with pride. The caption read, "Congratulations to the beautiful couple, Valerie and Adam just married." I stared at that image for what felt like hours. The cake knife they were holding together, that was the one we had registered for. The venue was the same one Adam and I had booked. Even her dress looked like the one I had shown her from my Pinterest board. My sister married my fiancé on my 30th birthday. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The room started spinning, and I had to put my head between my knees to keep from passing out. When I finally caught my breath, I did what any normal person would do. I tried calling them. No one answered. I left voicemails that started calmly and ended with me screaming until my voice gave out. I sent texts that autocorrect kept trying to fix because my hands were shaking so badly. I drove to my parents' house and found it empty. That night, I cried until my eyes were swollen shut. I threw up twice. I smashed the framed image of Adam and me that had sat on my nightstand. And when the sun came up, I made a decision. I wasn't going to disappear quietly. I wasn't going to be replaced without knowing why. The first clue came from Adam's apartment. He had given me a key months ago, and he hadn't asked for it back. I let myself in, half expecting to find them there, but it was empty. Signs of hasty packing were everywhere, drawers half closed, hangers strewn across the bed. On his desk was a stack of mail. Most of it was junk, but there was an envelope from his company, West Ridge Investments. I shouldn't have opened it, but at that point, what did I have to lose? Inside was a letter congratulating Adam on his new position as Vice President of Acquisitions, effective immediately following the merger with Davis Financial Services, my family's company. A business merger, a marriage, it was all starting to make a sick kind of sense. I didn't confront them right away. Something told me to wait, to watch, to gather more information. So I did what they never expected me to do. I started digging. I created a fake Instagram account and followed all their friends. I checked my sister's credit card statements. We shared an account for emergencies, something she had apparently forgotten. Hotel charges were going back 6 months. Dinners at restaurants that Adam had told me he'd never been to. The affair hadn't started on the day of their wedding. It had been going on for months, right under my nose. If you've been betrayed by someone you love, hit that like button. Also, let me know in the comments if you noticed any signs before it all fell apart. Looking back, I missed so many red flags. Those late nights at the office, Adam kept having. Valerie started wearing the new clothes. The way my parents would change the subject whenever I talked about wedding plans, it was all there, and I'd been too trusting to see it. 3 weeks after my birthday, I finally got a text from my mother. "Fern, we need to talk. Can you meet us at the house tomorrow at noon?" No apology, no explanation, just a summons, as if I were the one who had done something wrong. I went, of course. I needed answers. When I walked into my parents' living room, they were all there. Mom, Dad, Valerie, and Adam, sitting on the couches like it was a normal family meeting. Valerie was wearing my engagement ring, the one Adam had given me, with the princess-cut diamond that had belonged to his grandmother. "Fern," my father started, his voice calm and businesslike. "I know this must be difficult for you." "Difficult?" I laughed, and it sounded hollow even to my own ears. "Is that what we're calling it now?" "We didn't plan for it to happen this way," Valerie said, reaching for Adam's hand. "But sometimes you can't help who you fall in love with." I looked at Adam, waiting for him to at least have the decency to look ashamed. He didn't. "The merger needed to happen," my father continued. "West Ridge has the infrastructure we need, and we have the client base they want. It makes good business sense for all of us. And marrying my sister instead of me, what kind of sense does that make?" My mother cleared her throat. "Valerie has her MBA. She understands the business better than you ever did, Fern. When we realized that Adam and Valerie had connected, it just seemed like a more practical arrangement." "Practical?" I repeated. "You traded me like I was a business asset that wasn't performing well enough." "Nobody traded anybody," Adam said, speaking for the first time. "Valerie and I fell in love. It happens." "On my birthday," I said. "You married my sister on my birthday." There was an uncomfortable silence. Then my father said, "The merger timeline was accelerated. The board wanted it done before the end of the quarter." That's when I realized they weren't sorry. Not really. They were just annoyed that I wasn't taking it well, that I wasn't being practical about being discarded. I left without screaming, without crying. I simply stood up and walked out. They probably thought that was the end of it, that I would lick my wounds and disappear. They were wrong. The first person I called was Linda, my father's executive assistant. She'd worked for Davis Financial for 20 years and had always been kind to me. "I was wondering when you'd call," she said when I asked if we could meet for coffee. "There's a lot you don't know, Fern." At the coffee shop, Linda slid a folder across the table to me. "Your father would fire me if he knew I was giving you this, but what he did to you wasn't right." Inside the folder were emails, dozens of them dating back over a year. Correspondence between my father, Adam, and the board of West Ridge Investments. "Adam approached your father about the merger 18 months ago," Linda explained. "Initially, the West Ridge board wasn't interested. They thought Davis Financial was too small, too regional, but Adam was persistent." I scanned the emails, my stomach sinking with each one I read. "Then 6 months ago, something changed," Linda continued. "Suddenly, West Ridge was very interested, but they had conditions. They wanted a Davis family member directly involved in the leadership team post-merger. Your father suggested you, since you and Adam were engaged anyway." "But I don't work for the company," I said. "I'm a graphic designer. I know nothing about finance." Linda nodded. "Exactly. West Ridge rejected that proposal. They wanted someone with financial expertise, someone who understood the industry." "Valerie," I whispered. "Yes, your sister has been working toward her father's approval her whole life. When she found out about the merger proposal, she saw her chance." I kept reading. There it was in black and white emails between Valerie and Adam that started professionally and gradually became personal. Discussions about how to handle the Fern situation. A cold, calculated plan to phase me out. "Why are you showing me this?" I asked Linda. She hesitated before answering. "Your father has always underestimated you. He thinks you're too soft, too artistic to understand the business world. But I've watched you grow up, Fern. I know how strong you are." I left that coffee shop with the folder of emails and a growing sense of determination. This wasn't just about a broken heart anymore. This was about being erased by my own family. The next day, I received a text from an unknown number. "I heard what they did to you. I want to help. Meet me at Katy Trail Ice House at 7 p.m. Jason. Jason Hamilton was Adam's best friend from college. He was supposed to be Adam's best man at our wedding. I was suspicious, but decided to go. What more could I lose? Jason was waiting at a back table, nursing a beer and looking nervous. "Thanks for coming," he said as I sat down. "I wasn't sure you would." "Why did you want to see me?" He slid his phone across the table. On it was a video of Adam and my sister, clearly drunk at what looked like their rehearsal dinner. "I can't hear what they're saying," I said, squinting at the screen. "Watch Adam's hands," Jason replied. I looked closer. Adam was making a gesture I recognized immediately, a subtle tug at his ear, then a tap of his finger against his glass. It was something he did when he was lying, a tell I had pointed out to him early in our relationship. "He's lying about something," I said. Jason nodded. "About how they got together. The story they're telling everyone is romantic serendipity, but that's not what happened." Over the next hour, Jason told me everything he knew. How Adam had been frustrated with my lack of interest in his business. How my father had taken Adam aside at Christmas last year and suggested that he might be backing the wrong Davis horse. How Valerie had deliberately pursued Adam, with my parents' knowledge and approval. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked him. "Because Adam screwed me too," Jason said bitterly. "We were supposed to be partners in a side venture. He promised me funding, had me quit my job to work on it full time. Then suddenly he's marrying your sister and telling me the deal is off because he has family obligations now." So that was it. Jason wasn't helping me out of the goodness of his heart. He wanted revenge too. "What do you propose we do?" I asked. "I have access to Adam's personal email, and I know things about the merger that would interest the SEC. For the first time since my birthday, I smiled, a real smile. "I think we have a lot to talk about, Jason." Over the next few weeks, a picture emerged that was even darker than I'd imagined. The merger between Davis Financial and Westridge wasn't about business growth. It was about covering up accounting irregularities at Davis Financial, irregularities that would sink the company if they ever came to light. My father needed the merger to hide his financial misdeeds. Westridge wanted Davis Financial's client list and regional presence. Adam wanted a promotion and a seat on the board. And Valerie wanted what she'd always wanted, to be the favorite child. All of them were willing to sacrifice me to get what they wanted. But the most shocking discovery came from an unexpected source. Jason had mentioned that Adam kept a personal journal on his laptop. Using the password I still remembered, our original wedding date, I was able to access a cloud backup of his files. There, in entries dating back 3 years, was the truth that broke my heart all over again. Adam had never loved me. He'd been introduced to our family through a business connection, and he'd originally been interested in Valerie. My father had encouraged this, seeing the potential business advantages. But at that first dinner, I had apparently caught Adam's eye instead. "Met the Davis family tonight," one entry read. "The older daughter is exactly as Richard described, smart, ambitious, MBA from Wharton. But the younger one, Fern, is something else. Beautiful in a way her sister isn't. I think Richard was disappointed when I asked Fern out instead of Valerie." For a few entries, Adam seemed genuinely smitten with me, but then the tone changed. "Richard took me golfing today, made it clear that while he likes me, he's concerned about my interest in Fern. Says she's always been the dreamer of the family, not business-minded like Valerie. Suggested I might want to reconsider my options if I'm serious about my career." And later, Valerie cornered me at the Davis Christmas party. Said she knows her father wants us together. Made it pretty clear what she's offering, her business connections, her father's approval, and herself. I told her I'm with Fern, but she just laughed and said, "For now." The entries continued, showing Adam's gradual shift from seeing me as a love interest to seeing me as an obstacle. The final entry, dated just weeks before our planned wedding, was the worst. "It's all set. Fern has no idea. The wedding is booked, but it won't be her walking down the aisle. Richard has convinced his wife that this is for the best. Valerie is handling the details. We'll tell Fern after it's done. Clean break." I sat in my apartment, reading these words written by the man I had planned to spend my life with, and something inside me hardened. The last of my love for Adam, for my sister, for my parents, it crystallized into something else. Something cold and sharp and focused. They thought I was the weak one, the dreamer, the one who could be discarded. I was about to show them how wrong they were. With Jason's help, I began gathering evidence. Financial records showing my father's misappropriation of company funds. Emails proving that Adam and the West Ridge board knew about these irregularities and were planning to use them as leverage after the merger. Text messages between Valerie and Adam plotting how to handle me. I also found something unexpected: signs that Adam was already cheating on Valerie. Barely a month into their marriage, and he was exchanging flirtatious messages with one of the West Ridge board members' daughters. Once I had everything I needed, I made an appointment with Elaine Morgan, a lawyer who specialized in securities fraud. I laid out everything I had discovered. "This is serious," she said after reviewing the documents. "If what you're showing me is accurate, both companies could face significant penalties, and the individuals involved could be looking at criminal charges." "What would you recommend?" I asked. "Normally, I'd suggest going straight to the SEC, but given that this involves your family," she paused, "there might be a way to handle this that achieves what you want without destroying your family's company and the people who work there." "I'm listening." "A controlled disclosure. We approach your father and the West Ridge board with what we know. Give them a chance to make it right before we take it to the authorities." "Make it right how?" Elaine smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. "That's where you come in. What exactly do you want from them?" I thought about it. What did I want? Revenge, yes. But more than that, I wanted acknowledgement. I wanted them to face what they had done to me. I wanted my life back. "I want control of Davis Financial," I said, surprising myself with the conviction in my voice. "My father needs to step down. The merger needs to be restructured on fair terms. And I want Adam and Valerie out, no golden parachutes, no cushy board positions." Elaine raised an eyebrow. "You said you're not involved in the business." "I'm not, but I can hire people who are. The company has my family's name on it. It should be run with some integrity." 2 days later, we scheduled a meeting in the Davis Financial Conference Room. I arrived early with Elaine and Jason, setting up the documentation we had gathered on the large screen at the front of the room. When my father walked in with the West Ridge executives, including Adam, he stopped short at the sight of me. "Fern, what is this?" he demanded. "Please have a seat, Dad. You too, Adam. We're just waiting for Mom and Valerie." "They have nothing to do with this," my father said dismissively. "Oh, but they do," I replied calmly. "This concerns our whole family." Once everyone was seated, my father looking annoyed, my mother confused, Valerie and Adam exchanging worried glances, I began. "For those who don't know me, I'm Fern Davis. Until recently, I was engaged to Adam Pierce. Then I discovered that on my 30th birthday, while I sat alone in a restaurant waiting for my family and fiancé to show up, Adam was marrying my sister instead." The West Ridge executives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "But that's a personal matter," I continued. "What brings us here today is something more serious." I nodded to Jason, who clicked to the first slide of our presentation. It showed an email from my father to Adam, explicitly discussing how to hide certain financial transactions from the SEC. "Richard," one of the West Ridge board members said sharply, "what is this?" Over the next hour, we methodically laid out everything we had discovered. The fraudulent accounting at Davis Financial, the conspiracy between my father and Adam to cover it up through the merger. The plan was to use me and then discard me when a more advantageous arrangement presented itself. My mother grew paler with each new revelation. Valerie started crying at some point, mascara running down her face. Adam stared straight ahead, his jaw clenched. "So here's what's going to happen," I said when we'd presented all our evidence. "Dad, you're going to resign as CEO of Davis Financial, effective immediately. The board will appoint an interim CEO of my choosing while the company undergoes a thorough audit." "You can't do this," my father spluttered. "You don't have the authority." "Actually, she does," Elaine interjected smoothly. As of this morning, Fern owns 26% of Davis Financial's shares. The room went silent. How is that possible? My father finally asked. Grandma's trust fund, I said. The one you told me was only worth about $50,000. Turns out, her original investment in the company has grown quite a bit over the years. When I turned 30 last month, it converted to voting shares. I just never claimed them until now. My father's face went from red to white. He had forgotten about those shares my grandmother had specifically left to me because she knew I was the only Davis who had inherited her artistic talent and her moral compass. As for the merger, I continued, it will proceed, but under new terms. Terms that are fair to both companies and that don't involve hiding financial improprieties from regulators. I turned to Adam. You and Valerie are free to stay married, of course, but neither of you will have any role at Davis Financial or West Ridge going forward. And Adam, you might want to check your text messages a little more carefully. Your wife certainly has been. I nodded to Jason, who brought up the messages between Adam and the board member's daughter on the screen. Valerie gasped. This meeting is now adjourned, I said, standing up. Elaine will be in touch with your lawyers to work out the details of the transition. I suggest you all cooperate fully, unless you'd prefer that our next meeting be with the SEC and the FBI. As everyone filed out of the room in shocked silence, my mother approached me. Fern, she said quietly, we never meant to hurt you. I looked at the woman who had raised me, who had taught me about right and wrong, who had betrayed those very lessons when it mattered most. That's the problem, Mom. You never thought about me at all. 6 months later, Davis Financial was operating under new management. The merger with West Ridge had been restructured to benefit both companies without hiding any financial irregularities. My father had retired to focus on his health, according to the press release. In reality, he was lucky to avoid criminal charges. Adam and Valerie had divorced. It turned out that once he no longer had anything to gain from being married to her, Adam had quickly moved on to his next target. Last I heard, Valerie had moved back in with our mother, who had separated from my father and was living in a condo downtown. As for me, I didn't take over the company. That was never my goal. Instead, I appointed Linda, my father's former assistant, as the interim CEO. She had worked her way through night school to earn her MBA while raising 2 kids on her own. She knew the company inside and out and had the integrity my father had always lacked. I used my shares to ensure the company started a scholarship fund for employees' children and instituted a profit-sharing plan for all workers. The Davis name would stand for something better than greed and deception. Jason and I remained friends, though nothing more. He had his own wounds to heal. Sometimes I think about that girl who sat alone in a restaurant on her 30th birthday, waiting for her family to show up. How naive she was. How trusting. Part of me misses her innocence. But most of me is proud of the woman who rose from those ashes. They thought I was replaceable, that I would fade away quietly, that I was too soft to fight back. But here's what they never understood. I wasn't the weak link in the Davis family chain. I was the one who had the strength to break it. If you've ever been underestimated, if you've ever found strength you didn't know you had, hit that subscribe button. Because there's power in our stories, in knowing we're not alone. And remember, sometimes the people who think you're nothing are the ones who end up with nothing themselves.